Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video today. I've got a couple pro tips for the final draft. I'm just going to go them one by one. How to MLA format your paper so you get 100%, my expectations for how specific you need to be, the length expectations, and then I've got a checklist that's really going to help you get the best grade possible. Let's jump into it. So first things first, if you're trying to score a touchdown with this assignment, and really any assignment, first thing that I'm going to suggest that you do is make sure that you give it an actual title to the Google Doc itself. I'm going to title it Lit Comp Final 2020. That way I can find it easily in my drive. One of the things that's going to happen in high school if you stay at Frontier is they're going to ask you to make a portfolio of stuff from your freshman year to your senior year, and titling stuff like this is going to help you throw that pass all the way into the end zone. And if you're hunting for a good grade, the next thing that I'm going to ask you to do is insert a page number. So we just need to go up here to insert, down to page numbers. We're going to select this first option here. It's automatically going to populate the one, and make sure that you type your last name as well. Now, something that's kind of frustrating with Google Docs is that it's automatically going to make your header into Arial 11 font. So we need to highlight that and make sure that we make our header Times New Roman 12. If you change that font in your body paragraph, it won't change it automatically in your header. So make sure that you get that, and it's going to be good. And if you're trying to shred the powder straight into a good grade, the next thing we need to do is click outside of our header, and we need to look at the information that you're putting about yourself. Make sure that you have your name and the date, but we also need to include after your name, the teacher's name, class name. Make sure that you're also putting the class period. I'm just going to put 1-8 because I teach Lit Comp 1st period through 8th period. 1th isn't a number. But make sure that you have your class period 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. And then the date, we need to put the publication date formatted as the day, the month, and the year. 18 May 2020. Radical, dude. Now, with that information added, you've hooked a good grade, but you haven't quite brought it in yet or caught it. So what we need to do next is make sure that we hit one extra line. We're going to go up here to the center alignment, and we need to make sure that we add some kind of title. Now, when I'm thinking about a title for my essays, I like to kind of identify what are the major topics and then combine those topics into some kind of a creative title. All of you are reflecting, so just putting 8th grade reflection isn't quite creative enough. I'm going to challenge you, hook into something a little bit more juicy. Here's what I'm going to do. My topics are all about honesty and inexperience. So I'm just going to combine those two and say honesty through inexperience. I'm going to make sure that I capitalize that whole thing too. And just like that, I've landed myself a trophy title. So with the title, all this introduction information in your header done, now we're going to say aloha to our body paragraph. First, we just need to make sure that we indent it at the very beginning. That indentation shows the beginning of a paragraph. Aloha indentation. Now, I know this isn't your first MLA rodeo, so this next piece might seem a little bit unnecessary. We're going to go ahead and highlight the whole body paragraph. We're going to go up here to format. We need to make sure that we double space those lines. And that's going to give us a nice long looking paper. Yeehaw. Now, before you write away and unhighlight all this stuff, you need to make sure that you also have a Times New Roman size 12 font. So we need to go up here to the font at the very top. It's probably going to be on Arial. Select Times New Roman, and then select size 12 font. As long as you have that, you're going to ride your way right into a good MLA grade. And now we're going to hop on over to alignment right here. I'm going to ask that you do a justified alignment. It just looks really nice when you have a nice clean line on the right side and a nice clean line on the right side too. So now we've got our double spaced, we've got our Times New Roman font. We also need to make sure that we have these things up here at the top, also double spaced, also Times New Roman font. Man, that would have been a silly mistake for me not to have changed the top of my paper as well. That looks a lot better. Now, this might seem like an early present for some of you, but as long as you have a header with your last name and the number, your name, teacher name, class, date, a good title, and Times New Roman, double space, size 12 font, That's all I'm looking for your MLA formatting. Now let me talk about some other things. While reading through some of the rough drafts, I noticed that some of these stories of our words, actions, thoughts, and emotions were not very specific. Now, one of the things that I really need you to do in this paragraph is when you tell me about your growth through organization or your growth through maturity, you need to be as specific as possible by choosing like one day, maybe one game, maybe one class assignment where you really showed that growth. Don't just say, I grew because of this activity. Be really, really specific. Also, as far as the length, this is probably going to be about 1.5 pages, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but around 1.5 pages. If you're getting close to like 3 or 4 pages, you're probably including more information than you need. Keep in mind, this analysis is a close look at one thing. So if you're telling me about 5 games or 5 classes or 3 entire years, choose a little bit narrower focus to get a shorter paper. If your paper is like half a page long, you're probably going to need a little more information for it to be exactly what I am looking for. So make sure that you're specific and make sure that you're probably somewhere around 1.5 pages. There's one more thing I need you to didgeridoo once you have those expectations done. Now, it doesn't take a Wookiee to know that this is obviously a huge grade, right? This one paragraph is going to be 20% of your Lit Comp grade. Make sure you're looking at the rubric. Now, in addition to the rubric, I've also made this final draft checklist that's really similar to the rubric, but it might be helpful. Let's take a look. Does my final draft begin with a sentence that restates the prompt? Make sure you restate. Does my final draft include a directly stated claim that answers the question in the prompt? Does my final draft include data that is a specific, there's that specific part again, a specific and carefully chosen example of my words, actions, or thoughts and emotions? Does my final draft include an in-depth warrant, several sentences? Does my final draft include an identifiable ethos appeal? Make sure that I can see it. You might want to ask your friend, your parent, your guardian to take a look at this and ask them if the ethos is visible. Does it have an identifiable example of pathos? My emotions need to be affected. It's not enough to say, for you to say, I was happy. No, it needs to be my passion that you affect. Does my final draft include an identifiable example of logos, fact, statistic, some logic? That'll get you your logos. Does it end with a so what, like a call to action where you tell me to change? Or maybe it's a way that you're going to take this lesson and apply it to your future. And make sure that you are looking at grammar, capitalized stuff. Make sure that you have punctuation, periods at the end of sentences, commas separating clauses. Make sure that you are spelling stuff correct. I've seen a couple rough drafts where there's words that are spelled incorrectly. I notice that stuff. I read these really closely, use that spell check, don't just ignore them. I'm also looking for sentence structure, independent clauses, dependent clauses, simple sentences, compound sentences, compound complex sentences. Use a variety of sentence structures as an 8th grader. That's one of your expectations. Use those daily grammar adventure notes and worksheets. That might help inspire you. Something else, make sure that you have the MLA formatting done. It's all the stuff I've talked about in this video. And last but not least, folks, please make sure that when you're done and ready to turn this in before May 18th, you actually hit the turn in button. I don't want these to be late for anybody. That's all I have for you, folks. If you have any questions, please let me know. May the force be with you.